Greetings everyone, it is Jazz here. Today we're going to be doing a monthly recommendations video as well as sort of a January wrap up. So yes, monthly wrap ups are back in a way to my channel. I stopped doing them for a while, mostly because doing traditional book reviews was making me want to scream into the void. But I got inspired because I noticed that my friends in real life, not just on the internet, often asked me for recommendations. So I decided to restructure my wrap up situation for the month in a recommendation way. And what I'm basically going to try with this structure is that I'm going to go through every book that I read in the month, tell you the star ratings, and then I'm going to focus on the highest rated books, recommend those, tell you why I gave them a high rating, tell you why I would recommend them, and who I would recommend the books for. So if you're into that, let's get into the rest of the video. Let's do a general rundown of the 7 books that I completed in the month of January. First up is The Golden Road, which is the second book in the Story Girl duology by Ellen Montgomery. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I completed Christmas at Ferndean Manor. This is the 3rd book in the Jane Eyre Chronicles series by Joanna Campbell Slan. I also gave this one 4 stars. We follow up by talking about a reread for me, which is Fruits Basket Volume 1. This was in the collector's edition of the Fruits Basket manga, and I gave this one 5 stars. I completed all of the Seeds of America trilogy by Laurie Halse Anderson. This includes 3 books, which are Change, which I gave 4.25 stars, Forge, which I gave 5 stars, and Ashes, which I gave 4.25 stars. And lastly, I completed Stolen by Sophie Bounds. This is a narrative poem, and I gave it 5 stars. On to recommending things to everybody. So the favorite of the month was obviously Fruits Basket Volume 1. Like I said, it was a reread for me. I have talked about this series many time on this channel. However, I will give sort of a general thoughts moment. Fruits Basket centers around a teenage girl who ends up, for a variety of reasons, being homeless, and she is taken in by a family who is cursed with a curse where they turn into the animals of the Chinese zodiac every time they are hugged by a person of the opposite sex. It sounds like it's just going to be pure hijinks, but as the series goes on, it does end up having a lot of emo dark moments, as well as a lot of light happy moments. It's a little bit of everything. However, this first volume is mostly about introducing characters, the situation, and it's pretty lighthearted. And I recommend it for sure if you are getting into manga for the first time. It's a good classic one to get started with. This also was the first time that I tried reading a manga on my Kindle, and I actually really enjoyed the experience. If you have a Kindle, I think that you might also enjoy reading it on a Kindle as well. It has a nice feature where you can zoom the panels, which I found for this was really excellent just because I could see what some of the background drama in the panels and dialogue in the panels was saying. And also it does reverse the way you click for the manga, because if you are unfamiliar with manga, it is to be read right to left as opposed to left to right. For the most part, there are a few that don't do that. Fruits Basket is one that does the traditional right to left. And so it does make it so that you click on the left side of your Kindle. So that is my recommendation if you don't have a lot of storage space for your manga, which I do not currently, but I really wanted to give this a reread. Then I would recommend checking it out on your Kindle or your Kindle app if you have the ability to. Now let's talk about the Seeds of America trilogy that I completed. Forge was the one that I did give 5 stars, but obviously it's the second book in the series, so I can't recommend that without recommending the other 2 books. This series in its entirety follows 2 characters, mostly Isabel, but another character called Corazon, who are 2 Black people living in the time period of the American Revolution. So it follows them through their experiences in slavery as well as their experiences trying to get freedom or being involved with the military in that particular time period. Now, while I do really highly recommend checking out this series, I will be upfront and say I do tend to enjoy Laurie Halse Anderson's contemporary works more than her historical works. I do not know why. I don't know if it's like a structural thing or if it's just a content thing or if it's a character thing, but that's just something that I've noticed. I will say that I enjoyed this series quite a bit more than the one that I had read previously, which was Fever 1793. I just think the characters in the Seeds of America series are much more memorable, and I think that I just prefer the writing of the novel in general. I think the subject matter was more interesting to me than that one. What I like about Anderson's historical novels is that she does focus on different points of view of history or different topics of history that you don't really think about or maybe aren't as often acknowledged. And in this case, it is obviously the role of Black people in the American Revolution. I found the topic really intriguing, and I also thought it was really interesting that it brought in mentions of not just the role of Black people, but also the role of people like the Oneida tribe or the indentured servants from Ireland and Scotland and their place in the world as well. While those were just briefly mentioned, I did find it really interesting to, hear about those extra things. And I really enjoyed it exploring the dichotomy of the fact that, there were Black soldiers fighting on both sides of the revolution, but the people fighting on the American side were, promised freedom, or America is fighting for its freedom, but it is also still in some places by some people supporting slavery and the enslavement of people, and what that really means and how the characters reconcile the acknowledgement of that and how they form friendships with people based on their, specific point of view of that concept and topic. I did end up particularly loving the second book, Forge. I, for some reason, think that it is because it is from Corazon's point of view. It focuses on him enlisting in the army and basically what was going on at Valley Forge during the particular time of that battle and pre that battle. And for some reason, I just enjoyed his perspective more than Isabel's, which the other 2 books are in Isabel's point of view. That being said, I think Isabel's character development and her personality definitely works for the experiences that she goes through in the novel. So I'm definitely not hating on her character in any way, shape, or form. I just like the events or something more in Forge. I also appreciated that the series itself was extremely well researched. Obviously, while Lori Hulse Anderson is not a Black person, I do think in the afterword of, I believe, Chains, it discusses how she really did try to put the book in the hands of people that were Black researchers so that she could make sure that like the perspective was accurate, or as accurate as she could get to. And it's also kind of nice that all the books can include the different research that you can do on your own. If you want a very accessible historical fiction that introduces you to some new facts about the Revolutionary War and different perspectives about it, I would definitely recommend this trilogy. Also, all the audiobooks are really well read, so definitely check out the audiobooks of these for sure, because that's how I decided to consume these, even though I have the library book. And the last thing that I would love to recommend is Stolen. To be fully transparent, I have followed Sophie, who wrote this, on Instagram, probably since, you know, I've had an Instagram. And I recently started really chatting with her on TikTok. I asked her where to start with starting her narrative poems, because she has quite a few, and she really wanted me to start with this one because this one is her personal favorite. So I did find it on Kindle Unlimited to give it a go. However, just because I've chatted with the author, doesn't mean that I didn't give it an honest review, because I did really enjoy this. This is a story that is a fairy tale retelling of the fairy tale of Rapunzel, but told in a narrative poem format. However, it does take a different spin upon the fairy tale, in which it is following the character that would be Rapunzel. She has a different name in the story. Her father and mother, to a certain extent, and their feelings on her being taken by the witch. Predominantly, the story follows the father in his search for his long-lost daughter. And I really like this, first of all, because it doesn't focus on, like, the prince element. I have no problem with princes saving a damsel in distress, but you know, we've seen it. We know we can always read the original fairy tale if we want to visit that experience. It's nice to sort of see a story between parents and children. I think there aren't that many stories like that, and so thus I appreciated putting that spin on this character and him trying to find his daughter, and really just kind of making you rethink the fairy tale in a new way. Like, what would the parents in that story feel like because their daughter has been stolen from them? So I just really appreciated the concept. It does have a really accessible, poetic sort of layout to it. It is written in rhyme schemes, so if that is your vibe, this will definitely work for you. And if you've never read a narrative poem, this might be one that you want to start with. So those were my January recommendations. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on these books. Let me know if you're going to check out any of these reads, and if you've already read some of these, let me know if you liked them. Other than that, I will see you all soon with another video. Bye!